Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Immersive Lab, where we delve into the latest trends and innovations within the retail, entertainment, and hospitality industry. I'm your host, Dustin Fuhs, creative director of the Immersive Lab, and a top retail expert with Rethink Retail with over 25 years of retail, hospitality, and entertainment experience, and a former Disney cast member. I bring this up because it's going to be a guiding part of this upcoming discussion. Today, we have a very special guest with us, Jim Fielding, a veteran in the retail industry with over 30 years of experience at companies like Disney, Claire's, DreamWorks, and Fox. Jim is currently a speaker, coach, consultant, and author of All Pride, No Ego. Jim is also one of my favorite people on the planet and is a brilliant, insightful, and passionate about the future of retail and everything going on in the world. We're incredibly fortunate to have him here today to share his experiences and insights on the trends shaping the future of our industry. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you so much. I'm excited. I'm honored. I'm excited. We have such a long history. I think this is going to be fun.
Absolutely. And we've had conversations that have gone over, I
Yes.
think last time we were up here in Toronto, in my hometown, and just having poutine and having burgers and just talking about everything. So this was a great opportunity to talk about where things are going in our respective industries. Let's jump right in. So,
Sure.
Jim, what do you see as the most significant trends that are currently shaping the retail industry, especially in the realm of immersive consumer experiences?
Yeah, I mean, you and I have talked a lot about this, Dustin. I've been saying honestly, I feel like if I went back 10 or 12 years in my career, I have been saying that consumers around the world want less stuff overall, but they want product that's tied to experiences. Like I saw that happening. And it's not just because I worked at Disney and DreamWorks at Fox. Like I was seeing that happen 10 or 12 years ago. And it was probably commensurate with honestly the growth of online and DTC. And a lot of people were blaming e-commerce or online, saying that was killing the physical stores. And my point of view, as you know, has always been, I think the physical stores that are going away are the boring physical stores, or the physical stores that people have not invested in the service or the experience, and that the physical stores and brands that are lasting are the ones that have invested in that. And so I think what we're seeing now is just an acceleration of something that I've seen happening for 10, 12, maybe 15 years. And you and I talked about this. When I look at what's going on in the music industry, like with the Taylor Swift concert and the Beyonce concert, and you look at the amount of product that was driven off of those events and experience that's still being driven off the Taylor Swift concert, people will spend, but it's almost like a souvenir memory spend now, and less just I'm going to go to the mall and walk around and on a spot just buy something. I think it's much more intentional than it used to be.
Absolutely. And you brought up Taylor Swift, and that's an interesting conversation right
Yes.
off the top because Taylor Swift's concert is available on Disney Plus.
Yes.
You can see the full experience by
Mm-hmm.
using your Disney Plus subscription, but yet people are still selling out stadiums in order to see the show that's online.
Because I think human beings by nature actually crave community. And by the way, I went to the concert and I watched the concert. I did both, right? I mean, I think again, this omni-channel world, as a consumer, I want 24/7 access to the content and the stories that I like. And so is it fun on Disney Plus? Sure, it's fun on Disney Plus. For a lot of people, is that the only way they can ever go to a Taylor Swift concert? Of course. For those of us who are lucky enough to attend it in person, it's a different set of emotions and a different environment. When I watch it at home, laying on my couch, I can pretty much wear whatever I want. I bought a special outfit to attend in person because I wanted to fit in with the crowd, right? And I did the same thing with Beyonce. Like, when I saw the Beyonce concert, I really thought about what was I going to wear? And what I loved about what Beyonce did is each concert stop, she would, through social media, kind of tell us what the theme was of that particular stop, which is brilliant. And it didn't even necessarily help her sell product, but it helped so many merchants and vendors and brands sell product. When you think about 60, 70,000 people, I happened to see her in New Orleans at the Superdome. And, our theme was glitter, right? And so everything was silver and disco bally and everything like that. And I literally, as you're walking in, I would say almost 85% of the people were like in theme dressing of some kind. And to me, that's experiential retail. That's experiential merchandising. And again, to her credit, it wasn't even quote her product. She just set the theme and kind of let people interpret it.
So when you went to the Taylor Swift and the Beyonce show, are
Mm-hmm.
you looking at it through the eyes of a retailer?
Always. I mean, I think the curse of being a lifelong retailer and constantly curious and a student is I I study human beings and human behavior almost like a human zoo. I don't want to say it's the same thing I do in airports, by the way. I'm just really I was looking at the demographics, I was looking at the ages, I was looking at the male female breakdown, I was looking at LGBTQ, I was looking at trying to figure out where they got their outfits. You know what I mean? Like where you're like, oh, like, is that a designer brand? Is that Amazon? Is that Shein? Right. Um, and of course I love music and I love performing. So once the concert starts, I'm very much in the moment and trying to be present and drink in what, both of those incredible women were giving. But the pre-show and the post-show and the getting to the show, I literally had on my retailer researcher lens. And I think I'm like that constantly. Like I said, I'm like that in an airport too.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we were chatting about before, and it's going to be a big conversation, is consumer behavior.
Yeah.
And how are experiences like the Taylor Swift concert actually changing retail? And are
Mm,
retailers that are not in that world able to take lessons
mm,
from those experiences because their consumers are also those consumers who are going to these concerts? How are they
mhm.
able to meet these demands, especially regarding these immersive experiences when you're thinking that a mall store is signed for
Yeah.
a lease for 10 years?
10
They
years.
can't
Yeah.
change their immersive side as often as possible, but things have changed. Taylor Swift didn't have the Eras tour 5 years ago.
Mm-mm.
Things adapt, things have changed. So what should these retailers be looking for?
Well, I mean, I think even back at my time as CEO of Claire's, like I think, a physical retailer in a 10-year lease who says, my physical plant is built and I don't have any money to change it. Well, listen, what you can change is the front of your store. You have what I would call the impulse area, right? And what product you choose to stock and the visual merchandising that you choose to do, the things you put around it. And what I'm saying is you can look at what Claire's does in music festival season, right? Because music festivals are huge, not just Coachella and Bonnaroo, but I mean, there are country music festivals and jazz music festivals, and Claire's is a great destination for that, for jewelry, accessories, hats, makeup. And they have a festival collection, right? That is literally front and center during festival season. That is a great example of working into a trend, right? And using your space for a trend. I think the other trend that I love seeing going on, and you and I talk about this too, Dustin, is, collaborations and partnerships, right? You're seeing more and more. And I think stores, retailers should do that. Like partnering with like-minded brands or like-minded product that enhance both your brand and store and the other brand and store. And some of them are, really, really crazy. Like Louis Vuitton and Timberland are doing a collab right now, right? And on the surface, you're like, how much different can Louis Vuitton and Timberland be, right? But it works and it creates buzz. And the thing is they're short, they're punchy. You do a ton of social media and marketing around it, and then you move on, right? And one of the things, and from our time together at Disney, Dustin, is I always said that being, the president of a retailer, CEO of a retailer, the chief marketing officer of a retailer, it's like programming a television station. Like we literally had to come up with reasons to visit 52 weeks a year. I mean, if you think about a retailer, you're pretty much only closed, Christmas Day, Easter Day, Thanksgiving Day. There literally had to be a quote reason to visit. And from our time together at Disney Store, we had monthly stories Now, sometimes those stories were handed to us by the synergy gods because there was a new movie coming out or a new television show. But a lot of other times we would collectively get together and say, okay, what stories could we tell this month? And, one of my favorites is when we really started getting behind Earth Day, right? We did an entire, again, way before our time. We did an entire sustainability and eco collection at Disney Store, including something that I love, which at the time no consumer cared about, was we had this Track My Tea program where you could actually scan the barcode on the back of the neck of the t-shirt and it would tell you where the cotton came from and where the fabric was made. We even had a website for it. I think literally 400 people probably went to the website and I was like 300 of the visits. But the point was, it was a story and it drove interest and it drove traffic. And in that particular month of April, we didn't really have anything else exciting to talk about. And we needed a reason for people to visit. And I think that's the pressure of being a retailer. That's the pressure of being a brand, is you have to give someone a reason to visit 52 weeks a year, or at least once a month, 12 times a year. You've got to give them a reason to come in.
Absolutely. And the Disney Store was a great example because when you saw people walk through that door, they were excited to come into that experience, into that immersive side. And one of the things that you are probably the best well known for in the industry is creating teams that understand what their role is in the storytelling experience. Now, a lot of folks right now are talking about online and immersive and in store, and things are always different. But when someone goes in store, how do you stay motivated to keep your teams in such an industry and keep them excited in such an industry that is constantly changing?
Well, I mean, and listen, you're a perfect example of this. And the people that you worked with is, we consciously recruited and trained and attempted to retain the best talent in the industry, in the retail service industry. And we were looking, as you know, Dustin, we were looking for brand ambassadors. We were looking for storytellers. We were not looking for clerks. That's what, a clerk to me, and nothing against clerks, a clerk to me is a person that stands behind a register, like in a grocery store, and processes your transaction. And yes, they're polite to you, but they basically are like cash, charge, check, right? And make sure everything gets in a bag and that your eggs don't get broken and your bread doesn't get smashed. And that's great. That's clerking. What we were looking for at Disney Store, and I think what Lululemon looks for, there's other people like this, is people who are truly brand ambassadors, people who want to immerse themselves in the story, who want to share the story, who want to give service and experience and not just clerk, right? And when I walked into a Disney Store, if I saw our teams like clumped behind the POS stand, I was like, well, get them out, right? Because I wanted them interacting. And at Disney stores, you had to interact with the child and the parent or the caregiver. It was like this dual thing, right? You had to stimulate the child to make sure the child or the children were happy, but you also had to stimulate the parent, the grandparent, the aunt, the uncle, the nanny, whoever was there with that child. And what does that mean? That means we paid more. We did. We paid more than minimum wage. We invested in training and development. We were constantly sending out updates and videos and trying to keep them motivated. And then we had the brand ambassador program, which you remember so well, Dustin. And I give Jonathan Story credit for this, who brought it over from the UK when we made it the head of stores for Disney Store globally. And that was literally an advanced level of training. And if you got a badge, if you got the pin that said brand ambassador, that meant you were at the top 5% of our customer service team. And we had a goal that every store had at least one brand ambassador. There wasn't a limit on brand ambassadors, but we wanted a goal for each one. But again, that was an investment. That was training. That was, so training time, that was investment in the badges, that was investment in the store managers and the district managers and the regional managers, spending time training these people. And also, again, the people that we recruited, most of the people that work in Disney Store are part-time, right? Everybody said, oh, it's because they're all full-time and they get benefits and stuff. And I'm like, no. Most of them were part-time. Most of them were like teachers or moms or nursery school people or caregivers who wanted some extra income, wanted to work 15 or 20 hours a week. I mean, I think our average people probably worked 18, 19 hours a week, like
Mhm.
3, 5 or 6 hour shifts was about it. But when they were there, they were magical. And you remember, we even invested in the uniforms, right? When I got there, I was like, wait a minute. If we're going to reinvent the entire experience, we can't just have people wearing whatever they want to wear when they come
It
in,
was those,
right?
and it was those red shirts originally, and
Totally,
then the
the
red
red
shirts
shirt. Yeah, no, and
got
they
adapted.
didn't fit everybody, and they didn't wash well and all that kind of stuff. We invested in uniforms that were size inclusive, gender inclusive. And again, those were not cheap, but I knew they looked much more professional. And when you walked in, you were instantly able to say, okay, these people are in charge of my experience, right? They stuck out. And I especially remember it on like Black Friday and the big days where I was like, I want to know where the staff is. Like when you walked into a store like Yorkdale in Toronto or Times Square in New York, I was like, I, as a customer, want to be able to walk in and know in the chaos, who is going to take care of me. But
Yeah.
again, that was all investment.
And
And I believed in it.
well, you were one of those folks that underwent a transformation within a well-established brand. You brought Disney Store into Disney Store Imagination Park. You
Yes.
were the one of the minds and the brains and the you
It was
just
a
brought
team, but
it.
thank you. Yes, it was a
Absolutely.
team.
And I've talked with a number of the team there because when you're in that environment, you get a chance to see who contributed what. And when I look at immersive retail, there's nothing more immersive than walking into a store and having the trees come alive
Mm.
and show experiences and seeing the kids go up with their wands and costumes and being
The
able to
magic
scan,
mirror,
literally
yeah.
scan in a POS and allow it to come to life. Like how
Ugh.
we look at immersive retail, that was immersive retail before immersive retail was
Away.
even a term.
2010, like our
Yeah.
first prototype opened in Montebello Town Center in 2010. And again, in so many ways, we were so ahead of our time. And I give credit to Neil Asilla and the IT team, Ricky Fung. My God, there were so many people. And Walt Disney Imagineering, who helped us a lot, the people from the parks, because I was asking for things that didn't exist. Like I literally would be like, and Dustin, because you're right, I'd literally be like, wouldn't it be cool if little girls walked up to the mirror and a princess scene came on and a princess interacted with her? Like I didn't know I didn't know how it was going to get done. I just thought it was really cool. And that's where, we learned about RFID because as you know, the wands and crowns were RFID enabled and the RFID triggered the mirror. And I remember we tested and tested and tested because the RFID reader wasn't broad enough. And it was only working at the beginning if the little girl stood like exactly in one spot. And I'm like, okay, this isn't magical. This isn't magical. Like I just kept pushing, like it's got to be magical. The trees, again, we went through so many iterations of projecting on those trees, what surface you could project on. The trees also had to be magical when there wasn't projection going on, right? And so that was the glory. I mean, the story, and someday, I don't know, maybe I'll write the book of this one, but the
You
glory
have
of
to. You
what,
have to write that book.
the glory of what Bob Iger, Andy Mooney, and Steve Jobs, who was still alive at this point, did was they gave us the money and time to build a fully operational prototype in an airplane hangar in Burbank, California. And for a year before we ever brought that out to the public, we were in there every day with live product, live experience. It was a fully functioning store, including POS. And I probably did 300 tours of that store for vendors, for partners, for other people from Walt Disney Company, and took all that feedback. And we knew when that first one opened, we had all the bugs worked out because when Montebello opened, and it doesn't mean that then we still didn't tweak it. By the way, we opened probably 10 or 15 stores before we did a Times Square flagship, right? Because that was a monster and 2 levels and everything else. But
I still go there every time
yeah,
we're
I
in New
do
York.
too. I do too.
And
And then the funny thing was, a year after we did Times Square, we remodeled Times Square because we needed to add Disney Baby in, right? And so it it's it was such a laboratory. And those 4 years when I was president of Disney Store and we were rolling this thing out are the best job I ever had in my career. And the team that was there, I'm sure there's days they were like cursing my name because I was literally like, more, more, more. Like, we got to try that. Oh, that's cool. But I wanted to do even more. But the thing that I love the best is a lot of people that I run into from that period, they'll say to me that was their favorite job they ever had, or that period was so interesting because we were creating something new and we were so proud of the Disney brand. And we knew we had to live up to the Disney brand and the Disney standards. However, as I remind everybody, and your listeners will remember, you didn't pay to come to a Disney store. So I also had to keep it financially rational because guess what? Disney is a corporation and I needed to have return on investment. And so, of course, going to a park is going to be the most immersive Disney experience you can get, or on a Disney cruise line, but you're paying to do that, right? So I had to do, as we talked about, the best 30 minutes of a family's day, and it was free. But each time you came in, it also had to be a little bit different, and it had to be, and if it was your birthday, it was more magical. And if you were there for the opening ceremony, it was more magical. Or if you were there for the closing ceremony, it was more magical. And I still get, letters and comments and, and I've been gone since 2012, but again, it was my favorite job in my career, no doubt.
Now, with that comes expectations. Personally, professionally, you've set the bar incredibly high. And from that, and I will gladly have you back anytime.
Yes.
But with that conversation, because we didn't even talk DreamWorks, we didn't talk Fox, we didn't
No,
talk anything.
we're good.
But one of the conversations that we've had a lot is setting expectations, personally, professionally. And I have your book directly behind me.
Me too.
And it's a great read. I have mine autographed. I think I'm smaller group of people out there. But can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind where the book came from and what you hope readers can take away from it?
Well, I mean, I think even though, we talk about that was my favorite job ever, it was also the hardest job I ever had, right? And I think being president of Disney Store was a 365-day a year, literally almost 24-hour job, because I was global president. We had stores from Japan to California, right? And everywhere in between, 12 countries overall, which meant pretty much there was a Disney store open every hour of the day, and as with other retailers, things go wrong. We had systems that went down. We had robberies. We had people that didn't show up for work. We had theft, we had loss prevention. And to create that level of excellence and that consistency, it's hard. You're really on a lot. And, one of the reasons I wrote the book is I wanted people to know that, on the surface, it might look like it's all, pixie dust and rainbows. But the reality is there was some personal issues going on behind the scene. There was moments of incredible doubt. There was moments of horrible negative self-talk and, lack of self-confidence. And I think it's so important, especially for young leaders now, to understand that the journey to the top or the journey to your ultimate goal is not just like a yellow brick road where everything goes well. And I had as many mistakes as I had successes. I had failures. And I felt like it was really important to share that because, particularly as a queer executive, I didn't have those role models when I was growing up and building my career. And it's not that I want to be a role model for people, but I want them to understand that that I do represent, and that I just wanted to be real, right? I mean, the subtitle of the book is A Queer Executive's Journey to Living and Leading Authentically. A lot of the life lessons that are in the book are about me finding that authenticity, my personal story, my leadership story, my leadership style. And I'm still a work in progress. I mean, I still learn new things and I still change and I still grow. And as my life changes and I become more of a coach and a speaker and an author, I'm learning new things again now. And I just felt that it was really important. I didn't think the book existed. I looked and I read a lot, and I read a lot of business books and leadership books and business leader memoirs, and I hadn't seen one like that. And I thought there's a lot of people that are like me that could benefit from it. So it was pretty selfish actually, and actually pretty cathartic to do it. And I'm thrilled what the response has been.
Absolutely. And now you get to transition into this next phase of your life where
I
you're
want to help others.
showcasing.
Yeah, it's not the best part about life right now, Dustin, you and I have talked about it, is it's I've done, like, I'm so proud of what I've done. I'm so proud of what we did at Disney. I'm so proud of DreamWorks, Fox, Claire's. I really now want to help the next generation. I really want to help others find their magic and find their stories. And I think mentoring and coaching and giving back is so rewarding now. And so I do a lot of talks on college campuses with undergrad students and graduate students. I mentor C-suite executives. I like to spend time. There's some amazing retailers out there right now, and I love to talk to their leadership and again learn from them, but then and share my experience as well.
Yep. And that's the sharing experience is such an important circle where we started out talking about immersive retail and then realizing at the end that the immersive part about retail is that it's all about personal experiences.
Well, one of the
And
things, Dustin, I love, I know we're out of time, but you and I talked about this in person, and I think it's so important, is one of the benefits of getting older, and there's not a ton of benefits, I'm just going to be clear, is, with age comes wisdom. And you do see cycles, even though the world is changing. But a lot of what words like merchantainment, retailtainment, that comes from the department stores of the 50s and 60s. People like Stanley Marcus, right, at Neiman Marcus. I mean, people that started Bloomingdale's and Macy's, they were talking about that when they built the first enclosed mall. The first enclosed mall was in Edina, Minnesota, outside Minneapolis. It was about drawing community together. It was about giving people a reason to come together and shop holistically. That was in the 50s, right? That human nature thing is still here, right? And so I do think the benefit of hindsight, that's what I can bring to younger leaders, is like, everybody thinks this is the first time we've ever approached anything like this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we've done this, a lot. Are there nuances? Sure. Technology, e-commerce, AI, all of that kind of stuff. Yes, there's new tools, there's new disruptors, but this industry, we've survived before and we've changed before. And it's the Darwinian nature of retail, survival of the fittest. Like, you've got to be nimble and agile. And if you adapt, you'll make it. If you don't, you're going to be on the sidelines.
exactly. And we want everyone to make it.
Totally.
So we want listening to understand where
I want to go.
I
want to go experience their stores, their brands.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jim. I really appreciate your sharing your insights with us. It's been fascinating. And for our listeners, thank you for tuning in. And if you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe. Check us out over at theimmersivelab.com for more insights on the future of retail experiences. And stay tuned for our next episode, where who knows where we're going to discover. It's going to be great fun talking about the world of immersive experiences. Until next time, this is Dustin Fuhs signing off.